Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a pretty powerful tech concept, workflow automation. But forget all the confusing jargon and complicated diagrams for a minute. We're going to figure this out with a story.
Yep, you heard that right. We're kicking things off with a fairy tale. And why are we doing that? Well, because sometimes the absolute best way to get your head around a really complex idea is to just turn it into a simple, memorable story. So let's get started.
So, our story begins with a character who's facing a pretty massive challenge. And this challenge, it all comes down to a mountain of mail.
Let's meet the main players in our little fable. First up, we have Rabbit Gmail, our hero who is just buried under a sea of letters. Then there's the wise and powerful wizard N8N, who's kind of the master of ceremonies here. And finally, we've got Clever Cat GPT, a brilliant assistant who can read and write faster than you can believe.
And look, when I say Rabbit Gmail had a problem, I mean a massive problem. We are talking millions of fan letters. His entire warehouse was stuffed, floor to ceiling. There was just no way he could ever answer them all on his own.
So, in desperation, Rabbit Gmail goes to Wizard N8N for help. The wizard says, "Of course I'll help, but he needs one thing first." He explains that to get started, he needs a special golden key from both the rabbit and the clever cat. You see, this key is what will let the wizard into the mail warehouse and allow him to use the cat's magical tools, all from within his own laboratory.
Okay, so with the keys in hand, the wizard is ready to get to work. But he doesn't just, wave a magic wand. No. Instead, he sets up this very special place where he's going to solve the entire problem, his game board. He calls this magical lab the new workflow. And it's not some dusty old room full of potions. Think of it more like a giant game board, like Monopoly or something. This board is where all the action is about to unfold. And the wizard, he's the one directing the whole game.
And the game itself? It's super simple, just 3 turns. For the first turn, the trigger, the wizard instructs Rabbit Gmail to put all his letters onto the game board. For the second term, this is the magic part, he tells Clever Cat GPT to read every letter and write a perfect reply. And for the final turn, the wizard himself takes care of delivering all those replies. Now, the wizard has a special name for each of these turns. He calls them nodes or action blocks.
And just like that, it works. The magic of coordination. The whole process just runs on its own, completely automatically. Rabbit Gmail is over the moon because all his fans are getting thoughtful replies, and he didn't have to spend the next 100 years writing them. It's a total success.
It's a cute story, right? But here's the thing. It's not just for fun. Every single part of that fairy tale maps directly to something in the real world of technology. So the big question now is, how do we translate this storybook magic into actual real-world tech?
Okay, now this is where it gets really cool. That little story we just told, it's actually a perfect blueprint for how these incredibly powerful automation tools work. So let's start breaking it down piece by piece.
First things first, the wizard's magical game board, the place he called the new workflow, well, in a tool like N8N, that's literally called a workflow. It's the exact same idea with the exact same name.
And that's exactly what a workflow is. It's your visual map, your blueprint. It's the canvas where you lay out all the steps of your game, connecting them all together so they happen automatically in just the right order.
Next up, remember that golden key the wizard needed? The one that gave him access to the rabbit's mail and the cat's special tools? Well, in the tech world, that's called an API key or sometimes just a credential. It's a much less magical name, but it does the exact same thing.
So, what is an API key? Well, think of it as a special password. It's what gives one app permission to talk to another app securely. So when you give N8N your Gmail credential, you're basically handing it the golden key to your mail warehouse so it can get to work.
And what about those turns in the wizard's game? The instruction for the rabbit, then the one for the cat. The wizard called them nodes. And guess what? That's exactly what they're called in N8N. Each node is just a single specific job. Get the new emails? That's one node. Summarize this text? That's another node. Send a reply? Yep, that's a third node. They are the absolute fundamental building blocks for any automation you want to create.
Okay, so we've translated all the characters, all the magical items, and the concepts. Now, let's put it all together and see what building that workflow actually looks like in the real world.
See how perfectly this mirrors our story? You start by adding a Gmail node to get the mail. That's the rabbit's turn. Then you connect that to an OpenAI node, which is going to process the email. That's our clever cat's turn. And finally, you connect that to another Gmail node to send the reply. That's the wizard delivering the final message.
And honestly, that's really all there is to it. You visually connect these nodes on your workflow canvas, you provide those golden keys, your credentials, so they can all talk to each other, and then you just flip the switch and activate it. The magic starts happening all on its own.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. A tool like N8N is the wizard. It's the master coordinator. It doesn't actually do the writing or the sending itself. It just tells your other tools when to do their jobs and how to do them. And the most important part? That makes you the real director here. You're the one who designs the game board.
When you start to see it this way, automation stops feeling like this scary, technical thing and it becomes something creative. It's a story that you get to write, with you in the director's chair. So the only question left is, what's your first chapter going to be?